Let's travel back in time. Back to when West Edmonton Mall existed as it was originally envisioned. We're going back to the mid-1980s.
It's a zoo, it's an amusement park, and it's a shopping mall too. People go there for all sorts of reasons, and you can call it whatever you want. But as Anna Maria Tremonti tells us, the West Edmonton Mall, already the biggest one in the world, just got bigger.
West Edmonton Mall had only recently completed its Phase 3 expansion, doubling in size and adding the World Water Park, Deep Sea Adventure Lake, and the mini golf course. It also added hundreds of new stores. By this point, it had well secured its title as the world's largest mall, a title it would hold for nearly 2 more decades. To help us explore the mall as it existed at that point in time, let's use the help of this mall directory from the summer of 1987. It looks like there was a typo in this one too. The listed hours say the mall is only open until 6 p.m. on weekdays. Oops. Oh well, that's nothing a little stamp can't fix. In the mall's early years, it was likely still somewhat of a novelty feeling to those visiting the mall. It was in fact open on Sundays from 11 till 6. Now many people, including myself, are too young to have experienced what shopping was like in Canada before the early to mid-1980s. It was only a few years before when Canada's Lord's Day Act was still in effect. It prohibited business transactions from occurring on a Sunday. But it was a Calgary-based drugstore which ended up being the game changer. They, like many businesses at the time, were charged with violation of the Lord's Day Act for selling products on a Sunday. But they took the fight all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada, who made a 6-0 decision that the Lord's Day Act was unconstitutional and violated Canada's Charter of Rights and Freedoms. By 1982, a few years before the act was repealed, 70 to 80 of West Edmonton Mall's then 200 stores had already been operating in violation of the Lord's Day Act, as seen in this newspaper article from that year. To further put things into the perspective of the time, in what feels like perfect comedic timing, right next to this write-up about shopping on Sunday is another article talking about Medicine Hat's own municipal restrictions on how many pinball and video games should be allowed in local stores.
Won't somebody please think of the children?
Prior to West Edmonton Mall's third expansion, the mall already had 2 areas for shoppers to eat: the Phase 1 food court, known as Gourmet World, and the mall's restaurant district, known as Bourbon Street. But the third expansion brought with it the mall's largest food court, the Phase 3 food court, known as Gourmet Court, apparently. The food court was decorated with long water features, stretching from one end of the seating area to the other. There were short footbridges to walk across these water features, and walking across these bridges would take you under arches of water shooting from a nearby fountain. Centered in the middle of the food court, itself surrounded by even more fountains, was a type of central stage area. I'm sure the idea was that there would be fashion shows and other types of events on display there, but for the vast majority of the time it just sat empty. You could always walk out onto it though, which, as a kid, was kinda neat. It's funny to think of it this way, but the food court itself had kind of an anchor tenant. There was a large McDonald's with its own seating area tucked in behind the stage. This was back when the mall had not 1, not 2, but 3 McDonald's inside of it. The first of which was in Phase 1. Another was situated directly across from the main entrance to Fantasyland, or Galaxyland as it's known today. And the third was right here in the Phase 3 food court. Today, the ceiling of the food court is closed off to just the lower level of the mall, but back then, it was open to the second floor area above. There was also a single glass elevator, which often seemed like the slowest in the world. Tucked into the corner of the food court were movie theaters. Today, the mall's theaters sit atop its Phase 4 expansion, but back then, that expansion was yet to even be envisioned. The Woodward's department store was residing in that space.
It's a different world at Woodward's.
This Sanyo VHS VCR is just $4.79. This Toshiba microwave is only $3.99.
But that didn't mean the mall didn't offer moviegoers a choice of theaters. Oh no, quite the opposite. In fact, back then, the mall had 34 movie screens to choose from, separated into 3 cinemas. In the corner of the Phase 3 food court, right next to the McDonald's, sat Cineplex Odeon's main theater. On a personal note, my very first date with a girl was at this theater. I took her to see the 1996 movie version of Romeo and Juliet. How romantic. Cineplex's biggest movie theater rival at the time, Famous Players, also had a set of movie theaters in the mall. Those theaters were located on the second floor, where the Starlight Casino's restaurants are today. Back when Famous Players closed these theaters, that area became home to Jubilation's Dinner Theater, for a time anyway. Finally, the mall's third set of screens were Cineplex's cheaper second-run theaters, or as we always called them, the Dollar Theater. They were located just outside of Fantasyland's south entrance, close to Phase 1. The screens themselves were below the mall's main level. You'd have to take an escalator down to them. And I have some ticket stubs from back when these movies actually cost little more than $1. Cineplex's Cinema 6 eventually closed and that area became West 49, and the screens were removed to make way for their indoor skate park. You can see the escalators leading back up to the mall in the background here. Over the years, these 3 cinemas eventually closed, largely due to Famous Players' mega theater opening in Phase 4 of the mall, Silver City. And here's a ticket stub from one of the first movies shown at that theater, Star Wars Episode 1. Getting back to the Phase 3 food court, 2 of the most iconic decorations of the area were statues. One, a life-size statue of Caesar, which kinda went with the theme of the food court. Everything in the Phase 3 food court was marble, including tall marble columns, and even the tables themselves. The second statue was the iconic bronze man-eating hamburger statue. By 2013, the look and feel of Gourmet Court was getting a little dated, so renovations were put underway. The fountains were barricaded off. The openings to the second floor were filled. The central fountain was demolished. And the whole area was revamped to the much brighter, much wider look and feel that we see today. In the end, we certainly got a lighter, cleaner looking food court, but it's also one that was stripped of all of its character. The area was in need of a renovation, but gone are the fountains and the water features, as are the statues. At the very least, we can still see Man Eating Hamburger. He's been moved to the Phase 1 food court. Should I be calling him Man Eating Hamburger? He's been looking at that same burger for over 30 years now. From this point on, I think I'm going to call him Man Observing Burger. So, the next time you stop for a bite to eat at the mall, think back and remember how it once was. Perhaps not as bright, perhaps a little rough around the edges, but certainly not without character. West Edmonton Mall's own original Phase 3 dining experience, Gourmet Court. Do you remember the original food court? It's only been 5 years since the renovations. Did you like it better before or better now? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel, give us a like and a share. All of these things help us out tremendously. And why not check out one of our other videos? All about the greatest indoor show on earth, West Edmonton Mall. Oh, and thanks for watching.